Turns out Kamala Harris has a hideous Redditor army who do not want to accept the results of the election.
I can't believe she lost.
We keep being told, of course, that election denial is a uniquely Republican thing. Pay no attention to 2004 and Hillary Clinton in 2016. Even though Kamala has conceded and Joe Biden found his proper meds down the back of the sofa and gave a cogent speech the other day saying we're going to accept these results of the election, turns out Harris HQ aren't actually that keen on what's happened.
Is that just, I mean, Joe Biden must be, it's the three people here in the room, maybe 51% of the American population, and Joe Biden who are the happiest about the outcome of this election. You could tell, like when he gave
was smiling.
He was
Genuinely
like pointing around and like he did not seem that fit. Well, since I don't know, Grover Cleveland lost his first election. It's like this is because he will walk around now and he will find out every day when somebody reminds him, because he probably doesn't remember on his own, that he was the only person to ever defeat Donald Trump in an election, supposedly. But
and it could well that he has voted for him this time.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Conspiracy
I would
theory.
not be surprised.
Well, it turns out that lots of people voted for Trump. So we have an update from Elon Musk. God bless him for buying X. It's done a great service to the world. Arizona's just declared for Trump. I know that the Senate and House races are still coming in. So by the time that this is out, Carrie Lake could have been announced as a new senator, or she could have lost by a narrow margin. Who knows? But he has got the presidency, the popular vote, the Senate majority, probably a House majority, state governor majority, state legislature majority.
And the Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court. And also 2 Supreme Court justices are probably going to retire during this term. It's probably going to be Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. So he gets to appoint 2 more as well.
Superb.
Cementing that.
Sad to see Thomas go, but what can you do?
Yeah, he's in his late 70s.
Yeah, no, exactly. Don't do
a
a
great service.
Games,
yeah, can you give us some more like cackling as he gets into the car meme? That'd be fantastic. But before that,
I just
Trump
really
has
like his judgments. It's very terse. No, this is bollocks. Get out.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Trump has a complete and utter mandate to govern. But will the Democrats accept the result? Now, Kamala Harris has to certify the result herself on January 6th.
Yeah.
That's going to be delicious.
Yeah.
Between now and then, we might be expecting some protests, a spattering of upset and chimping out. And the reason I suspect this is because Dave Raboy sent me this piece from the New York Times. He was on our election stream and he brought it up then. And there were 2 lawyers here that in late October just advocated launching a color revolution against the Trump administration. So they say, here are 4 different examples of how we could have thwarted Trump's path to the White House before he could become a candidate. And here's how we didn't take them. So they said using the 14th Amendment. Now, we know that they can't decertify the election result with this because Trump didn't launch an insurrection, so it doesn't apply. So that's off the table. They said some other legalese thing that I've not included in here. The third one, they said, to defending democracy, the third approach, is partisan gatekeeping. In the absence of legal tools to block extremist
Have we
threats...
thought about doing that, guys? No, maybe we should start.
It says, the responsibility for fending off such threats falls to political parties. Now, I hate to break it to you, but you are minorities in literally everything.
But the idea, let's try parting. That's all you've done for the last decade, which is why you've got Trump.
Yes.
It's literally the reason he's...
And you now have 0 bargaining power. Because you lost every single institution. So that one's off the table. And they say, when authoritarians make it onto the ballot, pro-democratic forces may turn to a 4th strategy. Containment.
So just... The pro-democratic forces. Well, what happened? Well, people voted for what they wanted and they got it. Yeah, that's anti-democracy.
Yeah, no, it is, Cole. You see, democracy doesn't mean one man, one vote to the Democrats.
Yeah,
remember that
people should get what they want.
No, they're blank slatists. Yeah. So they get to tell you what you should want, presuming we have an egalitarian human nature. And so it's only because of divisive, racist populists like Trump that you're not all voting for the Democrats. So if you don't get Democrats, democracy hasn't worked in their mind.
Correct.
They're mad, they believe this, take it into account. So instead they say, let's try containment, in which politicians from across the ideological spectrum forge a broad coalition to isolate and defeat the authoritarians. Translation, the uniparty and the deep state try and frustrate Trump's term again. It seems that he's much wiser this time. They actually reference a couple of examples in European politics, Ralph. They reference how the Law and Justice Party were being gatekept by coalition in Poland, and obviously Macron allying with the communists to try and block Le Pen and her party from winning as Jordan Bardella as Prime Minister. Now, you know quite a lot about European electoral systems. given they are proportional representation systems and the Americans are not, how successful do you think the Democrats would be able to replicate any of those European containment exercises?
I don't even think that the Europeans have been successful. I mean, they also tried it in Austria, right? They tried it in Austria for 40 years, and now the Freedom Party came in first in the last elections. They again keep them out of government, and they will even be strong after the next election. And like Fidesz in Hungary, at some point, then you don't have 29%, you have 43%, and then the system itself basically allows you to govern on your own. The problem, I think you described it quite nicely. The thing is, people understand, like, the voter is not this mysterious creature. I mean, from the UK to Europe to US, they have been telling politicians for decades what they want. And they accept being ignored for a while, but it's like you pursue a girl, right? And at some point you're gonna give up and look for another girl. And this is kind of what voters are now doing. They say, we told you, migration has been an issue all over the West, I would say, since the late 70s. Yeah. And it has been ignored. And then the things, I always compare it to a ship and the barnacles on it, right? It gets more and more, and the ship is like, it's getting ever slower, it's slingering, it cannot hold course, but you have to burn more and more and more fuel, even though you get slower and slower and slower. And this is precisely how many people feel all over the West. They say, we pay higher taxes than ever, we get less quality in services, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in education, whether it's in any other area of life. So we want a fundamental system change. The fun part about Donald Trump is he is actually what Barack Obama promised to be. Like Barack Obama was the only difference with Barack Obama was that he had a different skin color. Let's be completely honest. Otherwise, he was a typical Democrat machine politician.
He was George Bush in a tan suit.
Precisely, yeah. Supposedly the only scandal he ever had was the tan suit, right?
I just love this. Oh, we just can't figure out what voters want. If only they'd tell us, as if like they're on this like shrinking island as the great tides come in, and they're just like, well, just could never be known. It's like, look,
a mystery.
Yeah, it's just a mystery for the ages. They just don't want democracy.
Someone's shouting in there as they're clicking through chicken entrails and
it's just like it's really not very hard, and we'll cover this in a minute actually. About like the sort of elite bubble politicians and people around them. It's actually not very hard. You're just a massive snob. That's your problem.
Quite. So you can't use lawfare, you can't use the other party, you can't use the uniparty in the deep state, you can't use electoral coalitions to gatekeep a man out who has won literally every part of the government and the popular vote.
Don't control anything.
So that leaves us with a fifth strategy, according to these lawyers. Social mobilization. Democracy's last bastion of defense is civil society. When the constitutional order is under threat, influential groups and societal leaders, chief executives, religious leaders, labor leaders, and prominent retired public officials must speak out, reminding citizens of the red lines that democratic societies must never cross. And when politicians cross those red lines, society's most prominent voices must publicly and forcefully repudiate them.
It's interesting, but what you're saying, when you appeal to society as being the last bulwark against tyranny, apparently, you're presupposing that the society doesn't agree with the supposed tyranny. But Donald Trump winning the popular vote kind of implies that society isn't with you either. So what now?
No, you're so right. And they have tried this. Like, I love this part of it. The prominent retired public officials, like Liz Cheney and John Bolton. Yeah. Like the idea, this was so absurd. Like the idea of Democrats side, if you trot out the Cheneys, that will win you the election, you must be entirely deluded. Yeah.
Do you remember Michael Gove coming out and saying, "I'm going to endorse Kamala Harris because I usually take Dick Cheney's advice"?
I don't remember that. Why
Michael Gove. As soon as he became the editor of Spectator, and then on election night, Spectator ran an article from Steerpike that says 5 Brits who lost out on election night, and I was just like, I can think of a 6th.
Yeah.
Why would you think? But also, if you're a Democrat, why would you think that you would encourage Democrat enfranchisement by taking the endorsement from someone you called a war criminal for 20 years?
Oh yeah.
Like,
if you're a conservative, why are you endorsing the Democrats? Like, what is wrong with you?
It's because they're neoconservative.
Yeah,
and as we know from both Strauss and Rawls, these people, again, believe your blank slates, and so they think they are philosopher kings that should tell you what's in your rational self-interest, and so they can administer democracy on your behalf as, what did Time magazine call it? Shadow campaign that saved the last election?
Good point. But what I love about Trump and what he's managed to achieve is actually successfully oust the uniparty into one of the parties. So he's successfully taken control of literally more than half of American politics at this point. But in 2016, took control of like half of American politics and essentially forced them to be like, oh no, we're all Democrats now. So George Bush, Dick Cheney, probably Rumsfeld, all of the worst people of the early 2000s are now all Democrats, along with Obama, Clinton, that's Gore and all those, and so you've got, okay, great, they're all, and then our politicians are like, Labour are like, yeah, we're with them, and the Conservatives are like, oh yeah, we're with them too.
Do you know William Hague wrote a column in the Times?
If Trump wins, it'll be a catastrophe.
His exact quote was, "We're all Democrats now." It's like, thanks,
Did he?
We knew that. That's the end. That's the final line of his column.
But this is you made such an important point, because that was the trouble that Trump had in his first period, right? Which was that he was an outsider who was winning not just against Hillary Clinton, he was also winning against the Republican establishment.
The entire consensus.
Precisely. And the Republicans then, they reined him in, right? He had, I think, Reince Priebus, who nobody has ever heard of before, was his first chief of staff. And they put all these
loads of rhinos.
Exactly.
Paul Ryan, Mike Pompeo.
Exactly. And in a weird way, and this I think makes the period we're living through so interesting, the 4-year break he had from power was probably the best thing that could happen, because first of all, things got so bad, not just in the US but all over the West, that even the Elon Musks, right, the Joe Rogans, and I think behind closed door even Jeff Bezos and others,
I reckon Zuckerberg.
Yeah, exactly, that we can't do that, like something needs to change, and that guy probably is the one most likely to affect that change. If he would have been re-elected in 2020 or stayed in office in 2020, it would have been a continuation of the same. It would have been Trump as the president on his Twitter account with all these Republican, technocrats and apparatchiks around him. Now, at least, again, I'm as excited and enthusiastic as you guys are. Let's hope he's living up to our expectations, because I believe we will hold him to just as high a standard as we will hold anybody else. But it looks promising at the moment, because you need these idiosyncratic figures right now. And this is, again, what the establishment doesn't get. When they say, Sam Harris, for example, right? He is not normal. That's the point, because normal has been devastating for millions of people. Like, if normal means decline, if normal means that your life is going to be worse tomorrow than today, you don't want normal. You want the abnormal guy who says decline is a choice, right? The future is bright. America can be great. The very idea that if a politician, whether it's British, continental, European, American, if their slogan is make whatever it is great again, how can you not agree with this? Like, this should be completely beyond dispute.
Well, it's not fair, is it?
Well, also, Sam
Harris.
Harris.
Fair. It's not equal. What about social justice? Have you thought about these things?
Okay,
just you can already feel the venom.
One point on this, because
being injected.
Because this is, I'm all for justice. If people say social justice, they want to betray. If you are for social justice, you will get neither. Like, there's justice, and that's all that's needed.
Yeah. Also, Sam Harris's definition of normal is allowing Hunter Biden to hoard the corpses of children in his basement rather than have Trump University fail. I don't trust Sam Harris's definition of anything ever.
And But this thing is, like, none of these people themselves are normal.
Yes.
That's the thing. They're
Wait,
all
you
wild.
saying Tim Waltz, the Jim Henson character that befriends school shooters, isn't the apotheosis?
That was just a slip of the tongue. I'm sure he's not really friends with very many school shooters.
Anyway,
operating term of being very many.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe one or two. I mean, who isn't, right? But
speaking of incredibly normal people that certainly wouldn't be school shooters, where are they getting all these activists from? Because
great question.
Immediately after the election result came in, there were a sort of spattering of pathetic protests. AOC had encouraged this. She said, we need mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism. I mean, it's getting old hat now.
Just to be clear, right, I'm just at the point now, whenever they're like, oh, Trump's a fascist, this is Nazi America, I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm just going to gaslight them now.
Have you seen the Stone Temple
I want you to think that.
Of where the purple-haired guy shouts, racist, at the guy in the MAGA hat, and he just turns around and goes, loser, and just walks off. That's your reaction. It's like, fascist, loser. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, no, just agree with them and see where they go with it. So, okay, yeah, no, you're under Nazi occupation now. What now? I guess I'm just going to go home and protest or something. No, that's not the response. If you really thought you were under a Nazi occupation, everyone knows you know you're not. We're not playing your game anymore. If you say it, I'm just going to go, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Also, the deputy head of the ACLU said we need you in the streets, and so some people listened.
Yeah, the ACLU, oh yeah.
A very small spattering of people in mainly left-wing cities. And Andy No has footage from Portland, Oregon. There's a gathering of some very sad Starbucks baristas.
It's so limp, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a protest outside Trump Tower with a bunch of pro-Palestine people, with some.
And what are they going to do when Trump ends the war?
Well, the grift engine dries up. But all these placards are conveniently pre-printed. That's
it's just the renter mob.
Oh, we'll learn where they're actually from in a moment, and there's an aerial shot of it. It's really not as impressive as it was in 2016. The momentum's really gone. And there was a very small one outside City Hall in Philadelphia. But okay, so
You see the one in Britain?
no.
In York, I think it was, about 20 fat students were like, "We don't like Donald Trump," in the middle of York City. And it's like, okay. I don't think he's coming. I think he's got other places to be.
I think Hull City Council denounced the election results. I was like, Trump is handing in his resignation. As
Guy leans in, "We've lost Hull City Council."
Anyway, so there was this claim mentioned on when we did the election night stream. I think it was in your segment with Matt Turley Matt Christensen and Steve Turley, that all these people go to the exact same events, and it's to do with phone tracking. There's this chap called Tony Segura, who was former CIA NSA contractor, and so he decided to go to the events and do cell phone tracking.
Oh yeah,
and he's found a significant overlap with all of Kamala Harris's rallies, Antifa and BLM events.
Literally renter mobs.
Professional activist class being bussed out all over the country. So
George Soros has got to spend his money somewhere.
yeah, quite. So he's found 121 devices within the 171 cluster that were protesting the event were linked to 3 or more Antifa, BLM, or Palestine protests or riots, and 171, all of them, attended more than 3 Kamala Harris rallies.
You could probably get AI that would scan the footage and pick out the individuals.
That would be an interesting exercise. He also found, speaking of AI, that she did so I'm going to go through the rallies one by one. This was in August. There was a rally at the Detroit Metro Airport, and apparently there was this absolutely massive photo. And Trump said this was a fake crowd. Nobody was here.
It's obviously fake.
They fact-checked him. They said, actually, no, this is a real photo. We ran it through an AI filter, and it said this is 96% probably real. So
I'll take that 4% because I can spot the weird, like, backlighting on the people. It doesn't fit.
Well, also, they said 15,000 people went there. He found there were only 4,189 devices. So where the rest were the 11,000, but all right, that was on August 12th.
But also, when you zoom in, some of the hands are weird.
Yeah. On September the 12th, as it approached election day, only 3,600... there were 5,003 mobile devices, so the crowd numbers keep dropping. 3,600 came in from Georgia into her rally in North Carolina. So she had to bus about 2/3 of her crowd in. Okay, very odd. Another one as well. Expo at the rally at the Expo in downtown Las Vegas, and this was on the 30th of September, getting really close to election day. Only 7,000 mobile devices there. 834 from Las Vegas, 3,000 flown in from California, 2,300 from Arizona, 134 from Mexico. Why are they flying people in from... Is it only election interference when you can blame it on the Russians?
Just where you can get it from.
Yeah, there you go. Curious that...
Doesn't one from the Labour Party.
Yeah, 6,122 were repeat visitors from other rallies. So the overwhelming majority are just going from rally to make up the sizes of her crowd. In the final days of the campaign, if you're flying people in from Mexico, it's not a good look. And then there was the Ellipse rally in Washington, D.C., and this was on the 29th. This was fascinating. There were 31,834 mobile devices near Washington, D.C. for this rally. Of course, it's the epicenter of political activism. You'd expect all the Democrat staffers to be there. 91% attended 3 or more Harris rallies.
This is giving me real sort of Maduro Chavez vibes, where it's like, look at the size of the crowd that we have in the heart of the administrative state. Yeah, these are all government employees.
The first person to stop clapping was immediately whisked away to the rainbow gulags.
The opposition is like, we're going to fire all of these people. And so obviously they come out for the party that's like, we're going to expand the administrative state. So yeah, of course they support you, but they're going to all be employed by the federal government.
Also, they were all from other states. 11,000 from Atlanta, 6,500 from California, and 6,122 were linked to Antifa, BLM, or pro-Palestine protests or riots. So she probably donated to the bail fund just to make sure all the people could actually show up to her rallies.
I really want to break down, though, what percentage of them are government workers? And I bet it's really high.
Well, I also want to know who's paying for their transport.
Oh, that's
all over the country.
Question. They had $1 billion spent.
Yeah, true, probably.
Now they're $20 million in debt.
But then, if they're spending it on transport fees from Mexico, you're not allowed to do that. That would be worrying. Why? And also, why are they at every single event? Like, bit bit odd. So how come, as well, all of X flooded with pro-Trump posts, right? Except a small minority of absolute nobodies do some insane take on trans policy and get hundreds of thousands of likes. Did you notice that a few times? It's quite weird. How could it be that Kamala Harris dominates Reddit, yet Trump wins the popular vote? Very weird. Well, Count on X, Reddit Lies, who just sort of compile screenshots, decided to do some actual journalism and digging. So well done, sir. Very, very good stuff. And he found that Kamala Harris has been using a Discord server to instruct her campaign staff to go and downvote community notes on their own posts. So Kamala HQ, the account which hasn't posted for a little while, they would often get fact-checked because they just posted outright lies and out-of-context clips. When they got fact-checked, so they knew they were lying, they then said, quick, go and downvote brigade so that these community notes don't show up on our posts.
What a waste of time and effort.
Yeah. You can't stage manage perception like this. So he says, in the example below, so there's some screenshots here, Kamala HQ claimed that Donald Trump referred to Americans who don't support him as dangerous people. Timothy Durrigan, an employee of the Democratic National Committee, urges campaign volunteers to vote down a community note that accurately pointed out the Kamala campaign was taking Trump's remark out of context. So they know they're lying. They know that you know they're lying, and yet they not only still lie, but they try to actively suppress the truth being attached to their lies. So that's interesting. In Twitter Community Notes, as a channel on the Harris Waltz Discord, paid Democrat staffers were writing community notes on X to undermine the GOP and Trump messaging. So they were actively trying to create community notes under the RNC research account, for example. So when Biden claimed that his son was killed in Iraq, and said he was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, they said that, Biden's son died of a brain tumor, probably caused by a burn pit in Iraq. And it's like, yeah, that's tragic. That wasn't in Iraq, though. No. And also, in 2017, Biden was named presidential practice professor at Penn. So he wasn't a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. So, yeah. And then he says, Trump did say there were very fine people on both sides. It's literally just a complete and total lie that we have on camera. So they were community organizing in Discord chats and trying to actively bust people out to Harris rallies to create the perception of popular support when she had absolutely nobody. Weird that. They also use this weird app called Reach. This is like a progressive organizing app. And they used it to coordinate campaign posts. So X has introduced this thing called Radar, apparently, that allows you to see how many posts are using the same phrases or topics. So Reddit Lies just used Radar to search for phrases like Kamala Harris will deliver new opportunities for Latino men and communities. And there are 114 posts over a 3-day period with that exact sentence. So anytime you think this is bots, no, this is just brain rot Democrat activists sitting there posting the exact same thing because they're genuinely real life NPCs.
Too cheap to even hire bots.
Yeah, and all of Harris's rallies appear to be their inorganic spawn points. They had to do this because when they decided to post memes themselves, they decided to post stuff like this.
I'm not reading all that.
It's a wall of text
Happy
with impact
for you
font.
or sad, whichever it is you're looking for.
Your nan on Facebook wouldn't post that.
No.
They're far more inventive than that. So absolutely embarrassing and appalling. And then the Harris campaign actually manipulated Reddit because that's the only place that people vote for Kamala Harris. Go on. So this is Reddit Lies, his specialty. Despite his fervent belief that something was amiss, he never had any concrete proof that Democrats were actively manipulating social media. But 2 weeks ago, and this was on October the 29th, when Harris had that massive AstroTurf rally, an ex-user called Jesse Princey replied to one of his posts with a screenshot from a Discord server related to the Harris-Waltz campaign, and he discovered massive AstroTurfing campaigns across multiple platforms. In one case, there was a team of volunteers who spam social media posts that specifically promote Kamala. They then have other users pretend to be random individuals who just happen to come across the post and decide to comment. It's basically like a shady company putting a bunch of fake Amazon product reviews to make it seem better and more popular than it is. So apparently the politics subreddit on Reddit was being targeted by the Harris-Waltz campaign. Since the Reddit operation started, it developed an organizational structure with roles for team members, spreadsheets for tracking analytics, and key messaging to stick to when making a social media post. It found that 126 of the top 1,000 posts in the past month on r/politics were posted by official Harris-Waltz campaign volunteers. So that's over 10% of the top trending posts.
Win us the election.
Yeah, it's literally being posted by the government.
What a waste of time and energy.
Just social media, ladies and gentlemen, is not real. Like, the feds are controlling at least 10% of all the posts you see.
Hang on. I totally agree that, like, social media is worthwhile. Just Reddit is not social media that's worthwhile.
Yes, okay.
You want Twitter, you want Facebook, you want YouTube.
It's worthwhile, but anytime you get some spiteful, resentful idiot in your comment section going, meh, did you consider Trump's a fascist? It's like, okay, go tell your handlers I said hi.
The unwashed Reddit users are not the people you need to win over.
Yeah. So Harris for President staffers like Gabriel Lynn post daily messaging guidance, well they did, because obviously she lost, to the server's Reddit channel. It consists of articles and data that the Harris-Waltz campaign wants to boost, as well as key messaging that Reddit volunteers should stick to. And he found her LinkedIn profile just to prove exactly who this person was. So there's just loads of these people, pronouns and bio, of course, sitting in a Discord server, racking up at the start of the day a spreadsheet titled Reddit Organizing with favourable messages and news stories for the Harris-Waltz campaign, and getting their resentful gremlins who have no job and have nothing to do except post on Reddit all day to go out and just disseminate these posts across Reddit and upvote them.
This is like Rod and Todd from The Simpsons. We're winning the election. You're not doing that.
Kamala's lead posters, who have demonstrated a, quote, cultural knowledge of Reddit. Samson is cackling.
You can just hear him bellowing laughter at the other room.
I wouldn't put that on your CV, gents. They then choose links which will resonate best with different Reddit communities. For example, a link about, quote, how Project 2025 impacts reproductive health is directed towards communities with young women as their primary voter base, whereas news about Kamala's Fox interview, quote, winning over swing state voters, gets directed to Reddit's Democrat communities and people living in swing states. And they had a massive list of all of the respective swing state Reddit accounts, which for some reason have them. I don't know why you're on Reddit in the first place, but there you go. After the links were collected and categorized, volunteer quote-unquote posters take a handful of the links provided and post them to their assigned subreddits. Kamala's posters don't simply spam links haphazardly, they use a calculated sequential post timing metric to avoid Reddit's built-in spam filters. So the Reddit mods, so probably people knowledgeable of Reddit, are coordinating with the government and the Harris campaign to circumvent Reddit's anti-spam features, to manipulate Reddit to, what, convince the Democrats they're about to win when only Redditors vote for Kamala? Like, what a waste of that.
I just don't understand what the purpose of this is.
We clearly know why they chose Kamala Harris now to retain all that Biden war chest money, because that's what it's been spent on. Reddit organizing. How embarrassing. Over 15 days, this group of volunteers, directed by the Harris-Waltz campaign, made 2,551 posts to Reddit. Again, nothing to brag about. So far, they've received more than 5.7 million upvotes and 418,000 comments on these posts, according to their own data. In the twilight days of the election, Harris staffers were posting approximately 120 unique links to Reddit per day. Using their oh-so-cleverly named Please Upvote These spreadsheet, Reddit Lies, filtered information to find posts exclusively made by Harris-Waltz campaign volunteers. I found 1,728 posts created by 67 unique Harris-Waltz campaign volunteers since October the 4th, many of which received a lot of traction in a very short time span.
Just a quick thing. The phrase Reddit organizing is going to become a byword for pointless activity.
And how many people do you actually reach with this? I mean, this is... I still believe that she probably would have... I mean, if anybody would ever ask me what ultimately sealed the... I mean, I always said that Trump is going to lose, but that is just because I believe in the jinx. So I always said, I hope he's going to win, but because if it's...
Oh, I was skeptical too.
Yes,
aim low, be surprised.
Yes, and I didn't want people then to gloat at me and say, oh, Ralph, you said he's going to win.
I did exactly the same thing. Especially after 2020, I'm like, right, okay, there may well be shenanigans. I'm not going to be like... Because, I mean, you're looking at the indications. The fact that Trump was at 50-50 in the polls indicated to me that Trump was way higher in the polls. And actually, this was, it looked like it was going to be a Trump blowout. But I didn't want to say it because I didn't want people going...
But I think what really took her down, or maybe you could say what revealed what's going to be her undoing, was the whole, let's call it the Joe Rogan affair. Right, this whole, he invited her, and then her team saying, oh no, you come to us and we're gonna do an hour at best. Because the argument, whether somebody made it or not, I don't know, but is okay, if you cannot do a 3-hour friendly podcast interview, how are you gonna negotiate, with Xi or with Putin? Or you don't believe it. Like, just...
Moreover, why don't you want the public to see what you're actually like? Why are you being secretive about your own personality? It's suspicious.
And the final thing I'll mention as well is, of course, we've already mentioned foreign election interference. They were also using the Discord server to try and circumvent FEC rules about political donation limits and from foreign sources, and get a bunch of Canadians and other foreigners over to do phone calls and canvassing for Kamala Harris. So clearly it only matters when the Russians apparently buy Facebook ads in favor of Donald Trump or something. Anyway, look, I made this segment just so you know that be on the watch over the next few days for media manipulation, these sort of spontaneous protests that appear out of nowhere in contravention to the fact that Trump won the popular vote, and realise that the only people that support a candidate as morally bankrupt as Kamala Harris are filthy, unwashed Redditors who need to get a job.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.